Hello and thank you for joining us once again from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle. Our digital address GA0992539. Our leading stories this hour. NDC National Vice Chairman transported in police convoy to the Kaneshi District Court, where he is probable to be charged with possession of firearms without lawful authority. We have boots on the ground to bring you minute-by-minute accounts of what happens at the court as Alhaji Said Sinari insists the accusation is politically motivated. Uniformed, gun-wielding men working with police in Kumasi said to be members of police anti-robbery squad. But many say they are not familiar with this group. Who really are they? We pursue some answers later on the show. Also coming up, Electoral Commission educate first-time voters on casting their ballot as the youth in turn call on the Commission to ensure free and fair election. We hear from both sides as the youth group targets first-time voters with voter education. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Join us and tell your friends to do so. Also on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're streaming live on YouTube and our other social media handles, including Facebook. You can send your thoughts on 0540109009. My name is GIFTY ANDOH APPIAH. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the show. Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak is calling on the Ghana Police Service to review the operations of its anti-armed robbery squad. He explains that the unit has over the years killed some citizens in a manner similar to police brutality in Nigeria that led to widespread protest. Ghana's anti-armed robbery squad, which is attached to the Criminal Investigations Department, has been in operation for almost 4 decades. There is more in this report.
The Anti-Armed Robbery Squad was set up in September 1981 during the tenure of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings in the wake of widespread armed robbery. It has been credited for busting notorious robbers including Choco Spanner, German Cargo and many others. They have also been equally criticized for killing some persons who some say are not robbers. The unit was renamed the Violence Crime Unit with expanded function covering general crime investigation. It has since been restored to its initial name of Anti-Armed Robbery Squad and continues to fight crime. Some of the men in the unit are difficult to spot as they do not appear as ordinary police officers do in terms of hairstyle, for example. Its men are also often not in uniforms. Security analyst Adam Bona explains why.
Definitely, I'm not holding brief for them. Sometimes they step out of bounds, and when they do, it is our duty as citizens of this country to call their attention and call the attention of the powers that be to let them know they are stepping out of bounds. But what I can say is, their strategies, not all their strategies should be put out there, because by doing that, we are probably allowing the criminals to be one step ahead of the those who are fighting crime in this country. And so as far as I'm concerned, we've got to be a bit circumspect when we are dealing with the SWAT unit of the Ghana Police Service, because as far as I'm concerned, crime levels are rising, and if we are not careful and we tend to bastardize them too much, they would probably feel they don't have our support. But that is not to say if there are excesses, we shouldn't talk about them. The excesses must be reported, but we need to be very circumspect when we are talking about their models, their way of dealing with criminality in this country. Even though I know the politicians sometimes will have their way, and the criminals know. So sometimes they commit these crimes under, behind some, behind political parties, which to me quite unfortunate.
Security analyst Adam Bona ending that news desk report. We can now listen to Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak pushing for reforms.
Look at the way they look. Shabbily dressed. Some of them with dreadlocks. Some of them unkempt hair. If they were not holding guns and they were not in the police vehicle and you meet them by the roadside, your first assumption is that this person is a deviant. That's how you see them. Police everywhere are supposed to look decent. and look encouraging to the society. We see that in Europe and America everywhere. Let the police tell us where they are getting this idea that the police anti-robbery unit will go out in operation without uniform. They are wielding guns. They maltreat their suspects. They sometimes abuse them.
Alhaji Muntaka accuses the police anti-robbery unit of acting contrary to the professional code of the Ghana Police Service. He cites the killing of some 7 persons to buttress his point.
The method of operations of the anti-robbery unit needs to be looked at seriously by the police administration. We are seeing what is happening in Nigeria and many parts of the world. It all started this way. And when the right-thinking Ghanaians kept quiet, it grew and became so abusive and so glaring. Now the abuse, it happens in their office, or when they arrest people and nobody is watching. They take them to a place and shoot and kill them. And I've cited the Zongo 7 because that's an independent committee says so, that they were arrested and sent to a particular location and shot and killed. That's what the report says. And unfortunately, these perpetrators, and for lack of better word, these murderers are still within the police anti-robbery unit. I've filed a parliamentary question on this anti-robbery unit. And it is my hope that the Interior Minister will find time to come and answer. But I know the time has run out because Parliament is rising next week for the election. Even after the election, I can assure you that it's something that I'll pursue. Because when I want to believe that when the matter gets to the floor, other examples from other MPs will come out.
10 men on Saturday were arrested by the anti-robbery unit in front of the office of the ASARE MP. 9 of them were released on bail on Sunday after supporters besieged the Central Police Headquarters. But one of them, Audu Sulemana, popularly called Scorpion, remained in police custody accused of robbery. Alhaji Muntaka claims the said suspect has been an NPP activist who recently defected to the NDC and is being held for political reasons.
We know they are being used by the ruling government to foment trouble here. They want to push us to the wall so that when we act, they say, aha, you see how the NDC guys are behaving. We are civil. We will continue to remain calm. We want to act within the law, but we are urging the police to be mindful of these NPP people that try to use them to act.
He wants the youth in the Asawase constituency and all Zongos to exercise restraint as the matter goes through court. For JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
So let's stay a little while on this particular group. We'll take you through their core functions, if you like. But I want to hear from you. Is this something that you're familiar with? In fact, most of people say they're not familiar with this, and that anybody at all could go out there dressed this way with a gun and can always say, I am with the police anti-robbery task force, anti-robbery squad, I beg your pardon. What do you think? I want to hear from you. The number is 0540109009. That's the number on your screen right now. Let's hear from you and we'll share it with the rest of the world. But I'll take you through. We'll be connecting very soon with our correspondent in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. But let's take a look at the functions of this particular unit. That's if you go to police.gov.gh. That's police.gov.gh/armed robbery-squad. This is the information that's available there. It says the main mandate or core duties of the unit include investigation of robbery cases, possessing of firearms and ammunition without lawful excuse, use of authorized weapons for land guard activities, and any other cases that are referred to the unit by the police administration. So these are the things that they're supposed to investigate: robbery, possession of firearms and ammunition without lawful excuse, use of authorized weapons for land guard activities, and any other cases that are referred to the unit by the police administration. It goes on to say that the unit, as part of its crime prevention mechanism, embarks on night patrols. It also collaborates with the intelligence unit and other units to periodically carry on swoops at some notable crime-prone areas, as well as the anti-terrorism within civilian facilities in Accra. Again, it says that the unit updates the administration of various modus of operation employed by perpetrators of all facets of robbery and car snatching for public education. And then it says the unit also assists police, local police stations in the investigating cases of violence outbreak relating to chieftaincy and land dispute. Let me go over to Kumasi and speak to ERASTUS ASARE DONKOR. He's a member of our security desk here at JoyNews. Hello, ERASTUS.
Yeah, Gifty.
ERASTUS, let me start with this. Now, we've just gone through the duties or the call mandates of this particular group of people. But what was happening yesterday, I don't really see it on the list here in terms of what they were doing. Can you explain to us if the police in Ashanti region has been giving you any further details about why this group was out there working with the police? Whereas if you look at the call mandate, we don't find that as part of what was happening yesterday. Help us understand this.
Well, I can speak to their appearance, which, in fact, if you, on the first spot when you look at them, what goes on through your mind is whether these are criminals. To be fair and to be candid, they are dressing, some of them are wearing earrings, some of them are wearing hooded material normally worn by the so-called Akata people. And so you find some of them in combat boots, in apparel that looks dirty, like somebody who is from the streets. That is how many of them look like. Their guns are on the, I'm not too familiar with the parts of the gun, but on the bullet part, you see labeled blue. And then the other handle is labeled blue as well. So they have blue markings, tips, used to wrap the bullet handle and then some parts of the gun. That is what differentiates them from the SWAT team, who are properly dressed in police attire, police gear, and all that. But with these people, you find them dressed like the normal guys you meet on the streets. How some of the people from the ghettos look like when they come on the streets. That's how they look like.
Has the police in the Ashanti region been giving out any information about the operations of this team or this group of people and why they were out there with the police, uniformed police yesterday?
No, it has not come for discussion. Perhaps that is why the police have not given any details about what their operations are and how they are supposed to behave and what their duties are. But from the way I see it, from my layman point of view, I think maybe they go underground and engage in a number of activities. And so perhaps that is why they are dressed that way, to be able to mingle. But if they go underground, then you ask yourself why they are used for day-to-day activities where their face are showing, they are holding guns and moving in that manner, whether that is appropriate security-wise. And so as for the police, it has not come up for discussion, and we've not had any explanation from them. Okay,
hopefully we'll get some explanation from the police on this. But ERASTUS, before you go, of course, we've had some security analysts, Adam Bona, for example, explain to us how this group operates, which somehow explains, their apparel and stuff. But it would be good to hear from the police. ERASTUS, before I let you go, I just want to find out what people are saying following this incident yesterday. What are people saying in Kumasi?
Well, there's not much talk about it in the general Kumasi. And when you go to Aswanse, that is where people are worried, because these are people you hear some of them talking about the fact that they know them not to be armed robbers. They are with them. There's a guy who works with who has his own type of work. There are people who also think that, well, these are people who are questionable, and so they don't know why the MP is defending them. And so there are mixed reactions when it comes to Aswanse constituency proper, where they were arrested. There are people who think that they were having their supper, they've come from a mini rally, they don't expect the police to come in such a manner and swoop on them and arrest them if there is no hidden motive. There are others who think that if they have no crime to answer for, why won't the MP allow them to go through the mail? At the end of the day, they will be exonerated. And so there are mixed reactions concerning this development.
Erastus, thank you very much. Erastus ASARE DONKOR there is a member of our security desk, and we're talking about a group of armed, ununiformed men who were working with police in the Ashanti region yesterday. And it looks like a scene that many people haven't seen, perhaps in a very long time. We've had conversations with a security analyst who has been explaining why perhaps if this group are members of the anti-robbery squad, you see them presented differently from the usual police officers we know. We're still pursuing more answers from the police service. We'll tell you when they give us anything more. Now, state prosecutors have dropped charges of conspiracy to commit crime to wit possession of firearms without authority and possession of firearms without lawful authority against National Vice Chairman of the NDC, Alhaji Said Sinai. The Kaneshie District Court discharged him after the police prosecutor, Sergeant Thomas Safo, informed the court that there had been new development for which the state is no longer interested in pursuing the matter. The National Vice Chairman, Alhaji Sinai, was accused of distributing weapons to some persons to cause chaos during the December elections. The Ewaso North Constituency Chairperson of the opposition NDC is reported to have confessed to the police that Alhaji Sinai supplied guns to some youth to cause chaos during the December polls. Kwekwa Sante followed this and joins us via Zoom. Well, let's get on to Kweku to get more on this. Kweku, what did the police say occasioned the dropping of the charges?
Well, so according to police prosecutor Sergeant Thomas Safo, there have been new development. For this specific new developments, he did not tell the court, but he just said that there have been some new developments for which reason the state is no longer interested in pursuing those two specific charges in court. And then when he read those statements to the court, what happened was Victor Kujoga Adaudu, lawyer for one of the lawyers for Alhaji Said Sinai, actually implored the court to discharge his client because he said that according to him, this is some of the strategies that the police adopt usually, where they go to court and then press some charges against someone, and then at the end of the day say that they do not have enough evidence to back it, and so they want to withdraw it, and then consequently just rearrest those specific persons. So Victor Kujoga Adaudu actually went ahead and implored the court to release his client and discharge him from those specific charges that were leveled against him.
I'm seeing the videos that you have sent, you sent through, where we see Alhaji Sinai. Give us a mental picture of how things went down there. And I'm seeing some of them as well. I'm seeing a lot of people gathered there. Bring us up to speed with a mental picture of what happened at the court today.
Well, so it probably seemed to me like the Alhaji Said Sinai and his family, and also some ND supporters who were at the police headquarters earlier, took this case as one of those normal political cases where the police was going to investigate and say that later on would continue, and then it happens on, and then nothing happens. So at the court earlier, it was people who had come, his family, his friends who had been at the police station were at ease. They were talking to the media and said, "Oh, nothing was going to come out of it." And then after about 2 to 3 hours of interrogation, we just got information that the police were actually processing Alhaji Said Sinai for court to charge him on 2 specific charges. I mean, possession or conspiracy to commit crime, to wit, possession of firearms without authority, and then possession of firearms without lawful authority. So this changed the mood at the police headquarters, where the family of Alhaji Said Sinai were complaining that this isn't something that they were ready to deal with. And so Mr. Alhaji Said Sinai was actually hoisted into a police convoy and was sent to the Kaneshie District Court. Throughout the procedure in court, his head was bowed until the case and the charges against him were read in court. Before he went into the dock, he stood for a while and then put on his shades and put on his glasses. So throughout the proceedings, usually he would say he would put his head down, and even after the charges against him were dropped by the police, he actually just walked out and did not say anything to the media, even though we tried to get something out of him. And so early on, it seemed as though this was a case that was going to be dealt with quite easily until those specific 2 charges were pressed against him. He was sent to the court, and then the mood at the court became very tense. GIFTY.
Kweku, thank you very much for that update. Kweku Asante there has been following this case since morning right from the police headquarters all the way to the Kaneshie court, where the case was heard and subsequently dropped. It certainly is a developing story. We'll hear what politics will be read into and everything, and then we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. I'm going to take a very quick break, but before I go, some of you have been sending through your thoughts on the anti-robbery squad. This one says, as a professional squad, they must look decent and neat. As for this kind of dressing, it is just a no-no. Ameka Manuel sends this from Kaswa. Thank you very much for sending this message. This one says, indeed, they must be reviewed or given special tags that will prove that they are from the police unit. In an era like this, such people cannot be trusted. AJ sent that message from Tema. This one says, this is how it began in Nigeria, and now we have the issue with hashtag #EndSARS. And this one says, my name is Awal from Wa. I think our constitution should be amended to allow the security institution to be independent from all governments. Very interesting thoughts you share there. This one says, I support the anti-robbery unit, not to be so much visible to the public, but not to dress like the criminals also. Abdul Rahim Dumbu send that from Wa. Let me take a few more before we go on this break. This one says, a leopard doesn't change its spot. Once the anti-robbery unit is within the police service, they should behave as such. If they keep on dressing like what some of us are seeing, then they become robbery suspects themselves. From Daniel, you send that from Doma East. Thank you. Baba says, it is very bad and sad to hear and see how police all over the world brutalize its citizens. Ghana police needs to have strategies in order to prevent any bad happenings. I believe you are referring to what happened in Nigeria. This one says, hello JoyNews. I'm sad for what happened yesterday in Ghana. I used to call Ghana my country even though I'm not a Ghanaian. Hopefully it will stop. Ibrahim send that message from Cameroon. And let me take the final two. This one says, my name is George Asase, Deaf Traco Community 25. Is this the first time Honorable Muntaka is aware of this anti-robbery squad? It was established in 1981 through 16 years of NDC, you say. My final message, I'm sorry if I can't read your message, is that this one says, these guys are thugs and not police officers. Armed robbers robbed me and took my motorbike wearing similar clothes in Tamale. So these are some of the messages that you're sending. Most of them I haven't even read yet, but there seems to be this pattern that's running through it. Many of you think this is not the appropriate way to have, even if these people are working within the police as anti-robbery squad, they should not be allowed to just come out the way they are, armed, the way they are dressed. You think that was not up to it for you. We'll take a very short break. We'll be right back. When we return, we're talking about stroke. It's been a while since we talked about it, but how does it even develop? Well, we'll tell you as Ghana joins the rest of the world to commemorate 2020 World Stroke Day. Do stay. Many thanks for staying with us. As always, let me tell you about stroke. It's an unpredictable health condition that can strike anyone, anywhere, and at any time. It is a major cause of disability worldwide and the second leading cause of death. I have here in studio Dr. Akopuah Valentine. He's a physician specialist and neurologist in training at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming. Right, so let's start with how stroke develops. I believe that it's a neurological or neurologically
neurological condition.
Yes. And it probably has a way that it begins, at its formation level. Tell us about it and perhaps the signs.
Okay. So basically, stroke to the layman is a blockage in the blood vessels in the brain. Could be in the eye, could be in the spinal cord. Before, we all thought stroke was limited to the brain. But in recent times, we know that strokes can also occur in the spinal cord, they can occur in the eyes. Now, we have a condition called atherosclerosis. So atherosclerosis begins to even manifest in every adult right from the age of 20 years. When that starts, Usually what happens is that you have fat deposits that clog your blood vessels and decreases or narrows the vessels, and thereby not giving blood free flow to the parts of the brain to give you your full function. So at any point when there's a blockade in that part of the brain, then it will manifest depending on the part of the brain that is affected. So if it affects the brain that is the part of the brain that is responsible for arm movement, for instance, then you will not be able to move your arm. If it happens in the part that is responsible for speech, you may not be able to talk. Yes, so that is one form of stroke. Stroke can also occur as a result of a rupture of a blood vessel. So basically we have two forms of strokes. We have what we call the ischemic strokes or infarctive strokes, and then the hemorrhagic strokes. The hemorrhagic strokes occur when the blood vessels ruptures. When it ruptures, then blood oozes out into the brain. And then the part of the brain that the blood is supplied by will have some manifestations based on its function. So basically that is how strokes come by.
But what causes the, all that you have said to happen? So the blood gushing out, etc.
Okay, so basically we have risk factors. Now the risk factors could be what we call modifiable and non-modifiable. There are some risk factors that you can't do anything about. Let's say increase in age. As you age, your vessels get narrower. Ethnicity, for instance.
Ethnicity?
Yes.
Wow.
So it has been found out that there are some ethnic groups or races that have a high incidence of stroke.
Is there an explanation why?
It's based on genetics.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a lot of studies going on genetics to identify what the root cause is. And then again, it could be due to males generally have a higher tendency of getting a stroke than the female, because in early parts of life, females have estrogen levels that protects them. Okay. Now, the non-modifiable risk factors are the ones that, the modifiable risk factors, sorry, are the ones that you can do something about.
Okay.
So if you are hypertensive, you manage your hypertension. If you are diabetic, you manage the diabetes. If you are somebody who likes alcohol, then you have to reduce your alcohol intake. Okay.
Does alcohol necessarily cause stroke?
It's a risk factor.
It's a risk factor.
It increases your chances.
As in the amounts that you take?
Yes. So we say that if you have if you must drink, then you should drink at least 2 units of alcohol a day.
Okay.
2 units amounts to 2 bottles of beer.
Okay.
For females, we even say 1.
A day or a week?
A day.
A day. Okay.
Yes.
So you can drink as many.
you limit it to 1.
I'm sorry, it's funny. Yeah. But you can drink as much as 2 bottles of beer a day.
For a meal.
For a meal.
Yes.
And
but
for females,
we say 1.
Why?
Yeah, it's still
because you've already said that females have estrogen levels that somehow protects them. So why would they rather be the ones with the caution of drinking less?
Yes, because females, also based on the genetics, are not able to metabolize alcohol as much as the males. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes. So even though in earlier life they have some protection, when they become menopausal, their risk increases.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very
and also
interesting.
Smoking, very important. Okay. Smoking is very important. 1 out of 10 strokes is as a result of smoking.
Okay.
Yeah. So
to what extent will you be susceptible to stroke if you smoked? So if you smoked for like say a year, 2.
The tennis, it increases your risk a tenfold. Okay. So it means that if you are somebody who,
a tenfold.
Yes.
Wow.
If you are somebody that smokes a lot, okay, the more you smoke, the higher the risk of getting a stroke. So
what are we, in terms of smoking, what are we talking about here? Are you smoking the normal cigarettes or cigar
tobacco,
or marijuana?
And even some medications can also increase your blood pressure. So people who do cocaine, methamphetamines are not good. If you do that, you increase your blood pressure and you can have what we call the hemorrhagic stroke. Okay.
I mean, as for those ones you can say largely, especially in the Ghanaian society or in the Ghanaian context, they will say, yeah, I mean, these are things that we don't usually have such a big problem with, but the things that people can see every day and do every day, smoking.
In the era of shisha,
yeah,
people combine all manner of things. You won't believe it, that people come in with very high BPs. You are wondering what they have done. When you dig into the history, you realize that they've concocted a lot of things that could have shut up their blood pressures. And then also we are emphasizing on exercise.
Yeah.
You see, when you exercise,
talk about the what you have to do to avoid it, but the causes is what I'm trying to look at and see if we can help people with things they should avoid and things they should cut out. At least we've realized alcohol and smoking. And it's not like don't drink alcohol at all, even though I would say don't drink at all. But it's about moderation. Drinking in moderation. And it's not also about not smoking at all. Again, even though I would advise or recommend that you don't smoke at all. If you are a chain smoker and you're trying to cut down on it because you have heard today on the pulse that it puts you at a higher risk of getting stroke, what can you do? I mean, if you say smoke 10 sticks in a day, what is the recommendation?
What we advise is you gradually wean off. I mean, it's difficult for people who are chain smokers to just quit because they also go into withdrawal, what we call withdrawal, and it's not a good thing. So usually advise them to break it down over a period. We have support groups that will help them. We have medication that can help curb their need to smoke. Okay, so we can substitute with nicotine gums and patches that can help them.
I see.
Yes.
Let's talk about what you were saying. What are some of the lifestyles, other lifestyles, apart from cutting down on alcohol and smoking?
Other risk factors that are very important include a healthy diet. Most of us, we just eat. You go buy your bowl of fufu and then there's plenty meat. Fufu itself is so heavy. But it has been found out that fruits and vegetables are very effective at reducing your blood pressure and also reducing your risk of atherosclerosis, that is increasing your cholesterol levels.
Okay.
So a healthy diet is very important. Also, you have to check your weight. For people who can even lose 10 pounds of weight, for people who are overweight, usually we say somebody is overweight when you have a BMI, that is what we call your body mass index, of more than 25, okay? Those who are able to lose just 10 pounds of weight decreases their risk of strokes a fivefold. Nice. Okay, so it's very significant. Even the smallest amount of weight loss is very important. Important.
All right. Yeah, I should be sharing that news with my colleagues and my producers as well. Imanolante and Matilda to work at that. But then, so cutting down on alcohol, cutting down on smoking, eating healthy diet. You were talking about exercising.
And then exercise. Exercise is very important. You see, most of us don't know how to exercise. We work all week, we eat all week, then on weekends we go and do extensive exercises, and then we say we are exercising. The Keep Fit clubs. No. You should have at least 20 to 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week.
Yeah.
That is
5 times a week. Yes. I thought 3 times a week was
5 times is ideal.
It's ideal.
For those who are pressed,
3 times a week is okay.
It's okay, but ideal.
5 times.
5 times a week. And then we also have some medical conditions, what we call atrial fibrillation. Your heart is beating at an irregular pace. That you will know unless you go to the hospital and it is picked up. It increases your risk of stroke. So when we pick those, we also treat them. And then again, people who are diabetic, it also increases your chance of a stroke. So if you are diabetic, we advise that you adhere to all your medications.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. When you have stroke, you have, let's assume that maybe you didn't hear this news early enough. You've done everything and you have a stroke now. How can you manage it? In fact, is there a way you would know that it is coming?
So stroke is very interesting. Usually, you may not have warning signs. It's a sudden condition.
Wow.
So it's sudden. And that is how we're able to identify it. It's very sudden. So when you have a sudden weakness in your arm, difficulty seeing, or you have difficulty talking, then those may be signs of stroke. We use a popular acronym called FAST, where we say FAST is for what? Facial weakness, A for arm weakness. I don't know if you have the slide. S for speech. And then T is time, because time is brain.
Okay.
The more you waste time, the more you have damage. So when you notice any of these things, you quickly rush
to the hospital. Okay, let's wrap up with what you can do when now you've been diagnosed. They say you're dealing with stroke. What do you do?
Okay, so management of a stroke comes in different stages. We have the hyperacute, the acute, and then the continuous rehabilitation form. So with the hyperacute, usually when the patient is able to come in within 6 hours of a stroke, if it is an infarctive type, we are able to give some medications that will lyse the clot. Okay. So when you come in time, 6 hours is very crucial. We are able to do that. Beyond that, we have what we call secondary measures. Okay. So the secondary measures are medications we give to try and prevent a subsequent stroke.
Okay.
And then in the long term, rehabilitation is very important. Assuming the person was working, is the breadwinner for a family, suddenly has stroke. You can't do anything. So for such people, we usually have a multidisciplinary team where we have the physiotherapists, the speech therapists, we have the dietitian, the doctor, the stroke nurse. We all come together and try to take the people to rehabilitation.
It's a lot. And I would rather you don't get there at all. So you have to deal with all of these things and the daily routine that you have to go through. We'll wrap up this conversation. But so it's 2020 World Stroke Day. Is there anything special happening?
Yeah, so this year we are focusing on exercise. That's why we say join the movement. Don't be the one.
Okay.
We are asking everybody to start dancing.
Yeah.
So you dance, you pass it to the next person by you. Yeah. So the whole world should go dancing. Dancing is a form of exercise.
I figure that dancing is very good. So with this watch, I try to monitor my steps, and I try to target 10,000 steps a day. It's very difficult to get 10,000 steps because at the end of the day, I have 3,000 steps.
Yes. Aerobics, very good.
Yes, but I dance on Sundays. Sometimes when I go to church and even at home, and I realize that I make more than 10,000 steps.
The Sunday church dancing is in a different environment.
No, I'm just saying. Yes. I'm just saying. This
but
is
it's
my
good
story.
Because we hear those stories a lot. A lot of people will say, "Oh, but I walk a lot. I work in the."
Is walking not good?
It is good, but the walking has to be a conscious, relaxed fashion, not the stressful one, because stress in itself leads to stroke.
Okay.
One other thing I need to emphasize here is the fact that more and more we are seeing more young people coming with strokes.
Wow.
And this is attributable.
How old are they?
I mean, we have people as young as 25, 30
with strokes. Wow.
On our wards. So it's very common.
Wow.
Okay. And hypertension is the leading cause. Most of us don't check our blood pressure. Once you are an adult, each year, at least, you should try to check your blood pressure.
Okay. It's been very good information, I believe, even though it's short. I believe it's very good information that helps you on what steps you ought to take. Avoid a stroke. Don't be the one. So let's keep dancing around the world. So I believe there's something that's going on social media, and people will be able to join. I've been talking to Dr. Valentine Akolpua. Akolpua, yes. Dr. Valentine Akolpua. I got it at the first time. I don't know why. He's a physician specialist and neurologist in training at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, sharing with us thoughts on stroke and how to prevent it. Thank you very much for coming once again. Now, let's talk about COVID-19. The Ashanti Regional Health Service is warning the country risks a second wave of a coronavirus outbreak if Ghanaians do not observe the COVID-19 protocols. The region currently has a cumulative case record of 11,017 active cases and a daily infection of 2. But Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran, says the public needs to stick to the protocols to ensure the rate of infections remain low. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting on the maintenance phase of COVID-19 in Kumasi, Dr. Tinkran called on political leaders to educate their supporters to observe the protocols, especially during the electioneering campaign season. Love FM's ERASTUS ASARE DONKOR has more.
The COVID-19 regional stakeholders meeting was to take stock of the fight against the virus and propose new ways of sustaining the fight. The stakeholders also deliberated on ways of getting members of the public who have stopped visiting health facilities due to the fear of COVID to start doing so. Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran, says continuous abstention from seeking general health care will contribute to more deaths outside the realm of COVID.
COVID is killing people. It can kill people directly. That is direct COVID death, and it can kill people indirectly because it deprives them of certain health. It deprives them of certain resources, and people will die out of that. So you realize that if we calculate the number of COVID deaths in this country, it's maybe about 300. But indirectly, COVID has killed more people than that. Those people who with hypertension and other diseases who were supposed to have gone to hospital, but for the fear of COVID, they couldn't go. When you die, though you died from hypertension, but it's COVID, still COVID related. Because if not for COVID, we will have survived. The protocols...
Despite the low level of COVID cases at the moment, he said any form of complacency in observing the protocols could trigger a second wave of infections.
The only reason why we are not getting the morbidity and then the mortality is because of the strategies that we've put in place. And everybody is working at it. But if we leave out this strategy and think that without the strategy you can just go about and do a normal thing, and COVID will still remain as low as 2 maybe per week in Ashanti region, then we are lying. Because it's only one case that you need to escalate the number of cases that you have. So once we are getting 1 or 2 cases, if we are not careful and then we don't adhere to the protocols, the possibility that the cases will come up is also very rare.
Political leaders have been drawing crowds that do not observe the COVID-19 protocols in the election season. The Regional Director of Health, Dr. Tinkran, had a message for them.
The danger we have is that we have overcrowding because people are going around doing campaigns and then people are following them. But one thing I've noticed is that you can see that most of the leaders will be wearing their face mask, will try and then observe the social distancing, most probably the hand hygiene protocol. But those who are following them are not adhering to the protocol. So the challenge is that here it calls for leadership. So the leaders should be bold enough to tell their followers that COVID is still around. So let's make sure that what I'm doing, you follow my example. You can come to the Deba ground, you can do everything, but always make sure that you put on your face mask and then observe the social distancing.
Reporting for JoyNews, ERASTUS, ASARE, DONKOR, Kumasi.
So we keep wearing our masks. Now the month of October launches everyone into the final quarter of the year with Christmas and New Year celebrations in sight. Even though the 2020 election activities are on the center stage currently, investors, shop owners and other businesses are also preparing to take advantage of the season and import several food products onto the Ghanaian market to cash in as people ready for the festive season. What is the FDA doing to ensure that food products imported into the country are safe for consumption before, during and beyond? What role does the consumer also play as they get ready for the festive season shopping? We'll soon be joined by the Consumer Protection Agency and the FDA for a conversation. But before then, Manuel Kranting was at the Central Business District in Accra. He has filed this report.
It's that time of the year again. I mean, close to just about 2 months to Christmas, and in the market you get a lot of people rushing to purchase various goods and stock them. But some of them of high quality, others also just a bit of issues here and there. Quite critically, we've seen issues of expiry date, we've seen issues of rust from inside cans, we've seen issues of rebagging. All of these are issues that have been mentioned by the Food and Drugs Authority. Well, I'm here at the Central Business District in Accra to try and talk to a few of the market folks, traders here. How do they make sure that their products and services are of high quality and of the highest standard? I'm going to talk to this gentleman here who is the owner of the shop. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Great, I hope everything's fine.
Yes.
So is this your shop?
Yeah, this is my shop.
Okay, so I see drinks, I see mosquito coil, I see water, and so on and so forth. Are you aware of some of the safety protocols that you take note of in selling some of these?
Yes.
Okay, well, just take us through a few of them. Which ones do you particularly look at when you're selling?
We check on the expiry date. Yeah, that's the important part of it. Yes. Yeah.
So what happens if a product, for instance, maybe an entire consignment of Malta Guinness, for instance, is expired? What do you do?
When it's getting to the date, we just inform our suppliers that the date is getting nearer. So what happens is that they normally bring another goods to take our expired one. Yes, that's what they do.
You take it away and receive a new one?
Yes, they give us new one. But the other products, sometimes when they give you, they don't change it when it's getting to the expiry date.
Okay. There are concerns about, some of you keeping the stock for so long in your shops, and then when it gets expired, then you clear them at really low prices. Tell me about that.
When it's getting to the expiry date, normally when they are not ready to change it for us, then you have to reduce it and clear the goods. But when it expires, we just throw it away. In Okanshi here in Accra, we don't do that. When it's getting to the expiry date, you either reduce it and clear, or you inform them to replace it for you.
But you sell canned products. I mean, sardines, canned tomato paste, and so on and so forth. Sometimes you have rust from inside the can.
Yeah, it's true. When you keep it for a long time, like you see the tomato, the lifespan is 2 years. So when you keep it and get into the time, sometimes you get dented ones, and they have the rusted ones too. That one, normally those who import will not replace it for you, but they have local factories here. Those people, they can change it for you. Yes. Yes.
So if you have a dented, what do you call it, canned tomato paste, you're not going to sell?
No, you can't sell it here. Even the customers, now the customers, they are clever now. When they come and they see dented ones, they won't buy. Now they also check the date, the expiry date. Yes, it's serious now. They check it before they buy. Yeah.
All right, so that's comments on the streets. In the studio with me is the CEO of Consumer Protection Agency, Kofi Capito. You're welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, my dear lady.
All right, and also on Zoom is the head of Food Industrial Support Services Department of the Food and Drugs Authority, Ebenezer Kofi Esel. Mr. Esel, thank you for your time. I think you are muted. I see you speaking, but I can't hear you. If you would unmute and say something.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect, I hear you perfectly. So let me start with you, Mr. Esel. What is the FDA's plan as we go into the Christmas and, you know, people buying things, etc., to ensure public safety?
Well, thank you, and let me say a very good afternoon to your viewers. The Food and Drugs Authority, as part of our mandate and the usual things that we do, getting to the Yuletide, we appreciate the fact that you have more and more people going out there to make purchases, either for home use or for as gifts that they're going to give out to people. And in the process, people become a little bit, you know, unfortunately reckless. And so they let down their guards, and then you have unscrupulous business person who also take advantage of these enhanced purchases, and as it were, sell things that would usually not be sold. Fake products or adulterated products or substandard goods, and at the same time, products that are also unwholesome. And so there are several things that we do. And then the most important one of them is the public education. And I'm very happy the young man who you interviewed earlier on did mention that now people, when they come out there to buy things, especially canned products, they will not even select dented cans. And it's an indication that our public education is going down well. So
we'll review, Mr. Issa, we'll review the public education that you have done. I mean, fortunately for us, we have the Consumer Protection Agency. But then I want to just find out from you the plan, FDA's plan. You've talked about public education. If you would run us through the others, then we'll perhaps, you know, have a conversation around that.
Yeah, the others include the intensified market surveillance. Okay. We also have intensified border operations at the ports and at the various points where goods come into the country from from neighboring countries and all that.
Yeah.
And so market surveillance, port controls, public education.
Yeah.
These are the three major activities that we intensify during this period in order to sustain public health and safety.
Okay, just a quick one. With the public education, I mean, we can talk about it, but market surveillance and border operations, which you've mentioned, exactly how do you execute these checks? when you go, so for example, when you get to the markets, we know once a while you randomly go to the market to check what products are there. If I'm wrong, correct me. And with the border operations, educate us a bit more.
Okay, with the market surveillance, it's unfortunate you probably seen it as a once in a while. It's not a once in a while thing. It's an everyday thing.
Okay.
It's an everyday thing. And when I talk about intensified market surveillance, what it means that now you throw more officers on the field.
Okay.
So if you have about 60 officers in the head office involved in market surveillance, now you are talking about the double of that number. In other words, you will cover a lot of places, you have your presence felt more. We believe in what we call the positive presence or the positive fear. Let the offender know that you will be there. Just like the police, just put one police officer at a traffic intersection. Every motorist will fall in line. And so put the FDA officers out there. Let people see them. Let the retailers know that the FDA is out here on a daily basis looking at the things that we are doing. And that in itself will let the people know that you can't just go out there and take people for a ride.
Okay.
So it doesn't call the market. With the port intensified activities, is the same thing. Your collaboration with the other operators, state operators at the port, you work closely with them. Now we have a closer working relationship with SEPs and other institutions at the port than we have in previous years. Before a ship berths, we already know what it contains, and that is shared on a common platform. So all the institutions know that this particular ship that has berthed, there are things in it that the FDA has to see. And then until the authorities or SEPs sees a clearance from the FDA, such containers will not be let out of the port. And that is the sort of thing that we will engage ourselves in the more.
Okay.
You know, now we are working 24/7 at the port. You have FDA officials always available at the port.
At the port. We'll come back to a bit of that. Let me come to the studio and engage Kofi Kapito, who is also here with me. So, Mr. Kapito, you've heard what the FDA is saying. I want to take your initial assessment. I mean, as an agency, I believe that you've been doing quite some work in this area. You've heard the FDA. What do you say?
Oh, let me take this opportunity to say good afternoon to your listeners or viewers. You know what? The FDA, to me, under their new CEO, has done a lot. I've been doing a lot of interactions with them.
Okay.
Actually, this whole educational seasonal campaign is a joint thing between the Consumer Protection Agency and the Food and Drugs Board. The Food and Drugs Board, unfortunately, do their best. But the funny thing is we always have unscrupulous people. It's not just only in Ghana. But to me, it is also the responsibility of my agency also to inform consumers as to what to look out for and what to be able to report so that the post-market and everything else will be holistic.
Okay, so what do you have on the drawing board for as we go into Christmas in October? I mean, next week is about November. December is coming. We have a lot to do when it comes to even with the election. People are still giving out things, you know, some food products, and we look forward to the Christmas where we'll do a lot of shopping. What do you have?
You know, there's a basic consumer thing that says buyer beware.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, the fact that somebody is there to protect your interests, that does not mean you should also be aware of what your responsibilities are.
Sometimes we just don't care, you know.
No, you should care. If you say you don't care, then what do you expect the authority to do?
Yeah, we just don't care because people sometimes feel, have you heard this, and I'm sure you have heard, people say African germs are not harmful.
Oh, I think it's something that maybe my grandmother's them used to say.
But the question is, people's head.
It doesn't really, because now with the advent of the internet and all these things, now instantly news is broadcast internationally.
So you think the perception among the buying populace has changed?
It is changing.
Consumers?
It is changing. Even the businessman who was at Okanshi, who was bold enough to say that even his customers will not even buy dented cans anymore. It's not just dented. Some of them are pregnant. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But the question is, you see, when you tend to buy things cheap, that is when you get in trouble. I know the pocket of the Ghanaian is tight, but the question is, I'd rather buy something wholesome than to go and say that I'm going to buy something that is reduced to clear. Okay. And the trick is this reduced to clear.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with reduced to clear, but the consumer goes and he sees that they reduce to clear. Instead of them buying what they need for a week or a few days, they buy for months. Okay. And you know you cannot consume
within
that.
I think on the basis of that, when we finish the conversation, the last thing I'll have you do for me is to give us, you know, a list of things to check, the boxes to check when you're going to buy. So, I mean, that's a bit of nice information that when you're buying reduced to clear, buy just what you need for a short, you know, period, because the longer it takes, it's going to be contaminated. Mr. ASARE, I want to come to you. Not long ago, we had an issue of contaminated gizzard. With all that you've mentioned, market surveillance, border operations, some way, somehow, we still had that contaminated gizzard on the tables of Ghanaian consumers. How should or why should Ghanaians trust the FDA that going forward we won't have some of these incidents occurring?
Well, let me say this, that regulation as it is, it's not a total, you know, program in itself that will give you a total clearance that everything is okay. That is why we call it regulation. It's a control system that we put in place. Occasionally, something may go wrong, but your ability to identify what has gone wrong, your ability to establish how it got to that level, and then dealing with the situation all will go to show your your skills, the knowledge, and then your regulatory prowess.
Because I want to talk to you about so many things, but because I don't have a lot of time, I want you to deal with the specifics for me. So I get that the reason why we found this was because of your diligence. Is that what you're saying?
Precisely.
Okay.
I mean, the diligence is what helps us to identify problems that have occurred.
So my question is, what else have you put in place that will make us trust you?
If you take a container load of gizzard, there's no 200% assessment of every pack.
Okay.
Okay? And so you will do a random sampling. Now, if the problem is not with the sample that you tested, the problem may be in the other samples that were not tested.
Okay.
And so your public education, your market surveillance will definitely pick out something that your import control system failed to identify. That is why you don't have just one system when it comes to regulation. You have a gamut of them. Okay. And so you put all ends and you're able to pick out something that has gone wrong. So we can still give the assurance to Ghanaians that as far as the FDA is concerned, you can still trust the FDA. And that is why, if you look at the number of foodborne diseases, there are cases that are reported in the world. Ghana probably is one of the countries where it's either not reported at all, or if it is reported, the numbers are very, very low.
Okay.
And I believe that, one, our food delivery systems are working, and then the consumers themselves are also becoming more and more educated. Our retailers and everybody involved are getting the necessary education that will all work together to ensure that our food delivery system in the country is safe.
It's safe.
And so,
Mr. ASARE, let me just push this in quickly. Online products. There's a lot of people are selling online today. Some of them don't even show anything that they've been approved by the FDA. What is the plan there?
Yeah, this morning I was with Star FM and this issue came up, and that is one of the problems that all regulatory institutions all over the world are facing, and it is becoming a means of transferring and selling fake, adulterated and substandard products. And so the education or the approach is to alert consumers that if you intend to buy things online, you stand a risk. Beyond food and medicines, people have bought dresses and other things online. Eventually, they realize that what they got was not what they were looking for.
But that's okay. But then when it comes to food and anything that you are putting into your body, yeah.
It's quite dangerous. And so the advice is that don't patronize such regulated products online, unless, of course, you can trust the source.
Okay.
Okay. If somebody puts himself out there and he says that I can supply this quantity of a particular commodity, we don't know where he's getting it from. That is why it is important that buy from areas or persons or sources where we can follow up and then do the necessary investigation should anything happen to you.
Great. The next thing I'll take from you is your final word. But Mr. Capito, I want you to run us through some of the things that you need to check, the checklist.
No, as a consumer, you have the basic responsibility to yourself and to your family. Yes, the regulator will be there, but the regulator cannot be everywhere. So when you walk into the market, especially you, our mothers and sisters, when you go, somebody has displayed something that looks suspicious, okay, you know you buy tomato all the time. And this time the tomato doesn't look right. Why would you even be tempted to buy? Because he's telling you buy 3 for 1. I mean, when people do that, you should understand that they're under pressure. They need to move this product. So you yourself should be responsible. Look, let me tell you what. You were talking about this online thing.
Yes.
And it's very, very interesting. Like you said, maybe clothes is not dangerous.
Yes.
I bought a Ferragamo shoe online in America sometime in July. When it came, unfortunately, I didn't look at the proper Ferragamo site. It looked just like a clone. So the Ferragamo that I got wasn't the original Ferragamo. It came from China.
What is Ferragamo?
Ferragamo is a shoe. It's a shoemaker.
Okay.
Okay. The question is, even me, if I can fall, prey to this, because look, the online thing is very, very scary. Fortunately, maybe Ghana, we are not buying food like online. In other jurisdictions that people are shopping online, even for meat.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are lucky. Maybe we haven't gotten there. But we have some reputable supermarkets. If they would get into that line of business, at least there's a trace that you can go and say, this is the badge number, this is your responsibility. But the consumer, look, if you see something, they say if it looks like a duck, walk like a duck, quack like a duck. It's a duck.
Okay, so your advice as we wrap up on this is do not buy so many of reduced to clear products. Just
if you cannot use it within the specific expiration date.
Yes, you buy as many as you need within a specific time.
Not as many as you want.
As many as you need. And also do not buy from, I mean, these are our takeaways from this conversation. Do not buy, it's unsafe to buy food products or anything that you put inside your body online. And that's what we're getting. And when people, I'm just getting this question coming in that what's the difference between best before and expiry date?
It depends. It's just semantics, right? But if somebody says best before and best before expiry
best before,
I'm sure
the FDA
Kofi ASARE can explain. But to me, my understanding is it is basically semantics. It's like the chicken and the egg. Which one comes first? So the question is, there is a specific date on it, whether it's best before or best after.
Yours is don't go for it.
Don't go for it
before that date.
Yes.
Okay, FDA, best before expiry date. My understanding was that best before means you can actually still use it even after that date. But expiry means expiry is more definite.
You are technically correct.
Yes, I am correct.
You are technically correct.
Okay.
But let me quickly add this. For most food products, and this is something that is being discussed internationally, and we've used expiry dates, and in the process we have thrown away food that would have been very good for use. And so the regulators' bit of all these things is the fact that it doesn't matter whether you put a best before date or expiry date. The most important thing is that the manufacturer says that beyond these dates, I cannot guarantee you the safety, the quality, and all the nice things that they expect to have from the product.
True.
And that is why it is not good for you as a consumer to patronize the product when the date indicated on the product has expired.
Okay.
So whether it is a best before date or an expiry date, the most important thing is that somebody says, I cannot be held responsible. I cannot guarantee the safety and the quality of this product beyond these dates.
Okay.
And therefore, we also don't want anyone to put that product out there or put the product out there or, as it were, use the product. We don't want retailers to do that.
Very well, very well. Ms. Aisel, the person who just bumped into your office has told us we've had a long conversation, and that should be enough to advise our consumers and our viewers. We say a very big thanks to you for your time this afternoon, for joining in, and I believe that people who are watching... I'd love
to be at the studios, and then my regards to Kofi.
You know what you should ask Kofi, sir? They should put the numbers that when somebody sees something,
they can report.
They can report, because FDA cannot be everywhere.
Yes.
But once you report to them, they will act, and they will act promptly.
Okay, Mr. Aisel, for our next conversation, perhaps next week, we'll have a conversation about that. Maybe open up our WhatsApp lines and have people share their concerns.
Precisely. And let me assure consumers that we have all these lines available, to free lines and all that. So when we meet next week, we'll make them all available. But we can even send them to you immediately after this discussion, so that you can also announce to your viewers and the listeners.
All right. That's all right. My producers will allow that. Thank you. Ebenezer Kofi Aisel, there, who we just spoke to, is with the FDA. But here in the studio, I have Kofi Kapito, very familiar face on TV, also the head of the Consumer Protection Agency. Mr. Kapito, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
So you know what to do when you're going to buy the food and it's very cheap. Buy just what you need, not what you want. Let's take a very short break. When we return, I'll take you to the Electoral Commission headquarters, where they have been talking to some first-time voters. We'll get the details. Now, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, has charged first-time voters to enthusiastically exercise their civic duty by stepping out in their numbers on election day to vote for the political parties of their choice. The Chairperson also reminded the beginners to carefully analyze the policies of the political parties before they cast their ballot, because those policies could make or unmake them. Madam Jean Mensah said this when she met leadership and members of Youth Bridge Foundation, an NGO embarking on first-time voter campaign.
That we always say that the youth are the future of our country, but they must be prepared. And I think that organizations such as the Youth Bridge is doing excellently in this endeavor. We cannot expect that you have a place around the table if you are not prepared. And if we are to have the meaningful participation of young people around the table, we must take time to prepare them. And so I don't buy, or I do not believe so much in the, the phrase or the cliche of prepare the youth are the future of our nation. I think that we must prepare the youth to lead. And that's why we applaud this initiative, by the Youth Bridge, in sensitizing you, in providing you knowledge as to why your vote is important, as to why you must exercise your civic duty, and so on and so forth. So I think this is laudable and it's worth commending. I believe that each and every one of you should have a place around the table. But as I have said, you must have knowledge so that your participation around the table would be meaningful. So that it's not just counting numbers and saying that, oh, let's gather a few youth around the table, and you come around the table, but you cannot engage.
Electoral Commission Chairperson Jean Mensah there. Some residents of the Mfantsiman constituency disagree on the appropriateness of the governing NPP selecting wife of murdered MP Ekokwansa Hayford to contest the December 7 elections. Mrs. Ophelia Hayford will come face-to-face with James Ison, who was beaten by her husband in 2016. Here is something to give you a sense of what to expect at 8 p.m. tonight.
What we have done is that we have consulted with the various traditional councils and asked if indeed it is befitting for the woman to step into the shoes of the late husband. And they have all all given us thumbs up. They believe that she has what it takes to take over. For the bereavement and the mourning, it is supposed to be so. But what is most important as well is that the job must be done. And if it must be done, it must be done well. And if it is going to be done well, then it has to be done by Mrs. Ophelia Kwanza Hayford.
We don't know Ophelia from anywhere. It was her husband that stood and won, and death claimed him. This seat is not for any family. Are we going to look on for the president to make wives whose husbands pass on replace them? It has happened before. If care is not taken, should the president die, the wife would be made to replace him. If we continue to do this, things might not augur well for us.
Our constituency-focused show, The Battleground, today puts the spotlight on the Infantiman constituency. Do make a date and get informed. By the way, the Pulse is brought to you by Dignity Lou, and I say a very big thanks to you for your time. There is more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is GIFTY and APPIAH.